Hello, I'm Malcolm Houslett.
I'm Janice Baker. Our very special guest on the program is a musician and maker of unique instruments, is Don Morrison.
Next on Our Time.
Don Morrison is a songwriter, singer, guitarist, storyteller and guitar maker.
He's worked with Bo Diddley, Joe Cocker, Rodriguez and even Billy Ray Cyrus. And he was brave enough to stand next to Shakin' Stevens in a toilet and nearly killed by Willie Nelson. We'll find out more about that. Please explain. Don Morrison.
My boss is an idiot. His boss is too. He'll do anything they tell him to. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. The hardest part about my job is to put up with that creep. My boss is an idiot.
What a way to open the program, Don. Thank you very much.
That's fine.
Don, I had not heard of you before a friend of mine said you have to get this man on the program because not only does he make instruments, but he's worked with all these famous people and he's just so good in performance. So here you are. Tell us how good you are.
Where do I start?
Exactly, that would be mine. Tell us about the guitar that you've got. You obviously made this.
Yeah, I've been making them for about 20 years. It's called a resonator guitar, and they were invented in the 20s before amplification, because they're much louder than a normal acoustic guitar. And
they're obviously not made of wood.
No, made out of metal. And they were used by a lot of blues and jazz in the old days because they played in those bars and that noisy bars. And
just give us the sound of what that would have sounded.
Yeah, that was
waiting for you to put
old
that
blues
on.
or something.
Yes. Want to slap and do all that, don't you?
Fantastic.
And this one, I've been making it for about 20 years, and this one is made out of my grandparents' house in Broken Hill. It's abandoned now, the house, and I went up there a few years ago and grabbed a sheet of tin out the back. It's still got all the Broken Hill dust on it, and the neck is made out of some laminated skirting boards that I found, and the headstock is made out of a foundation stump that fell out, and I grabbed it there. Yeah, and I remember I got it out of the laundry, the sheet of tin, because I'll never forget. My grandmother's only about 4'5", but she was really very bossy. And my grandfather wasn't allowed to drink in the house. And I remember playing cricket out in the backyard and chasing a ball into the dark corners of this laundry shed. And he said, "Don't you tell your grandmother I'm in here. I'm making her a surprise." So I grabbed a sheet of tin from near that spot and made the guitar.
What an absolutely brilliant story.
Fantastic.
Don, it's a stupid question to ask on one hand, but what's going to happen to that eventually?
Well, both my sons are musicians, and
so they'll carry your legacy forward.
It might be, by that time, it might be worth something. We might better get a bit of dollar for it.
No, that's such a family heirloom in more ways than one. To have a dad that made it, but to have that backstory is just brilliant. Don, what started you off playing and making?
Good question. I started late in music. Played harmonica in a jug band we had when I went to Nord High. A friend of mine, Greg Baker, he's became pretty well known for a while, and he played the harmonica in the break between lessons. I thought, he can play a tune on that, so I bought one, and then he started playing guitar. Our band was called Pus Super Nostril and the Bubonic Plague.
Of course.
And we didn't do anything.
Memorable.
Yeah. And then I sort of gave music away for a long time, and then in my early 20s I started playing again, learnt the guitar, and
what is it when music becomes second nature to your fingers with the guitar? What does it take for that to happen?
A lot of practice, I think,
a passion?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if it's a passion, but I just enjoy it, if you know what I mean. And
is it this might sound silly to ask, but is it the resonating feel, the vibration of the guitar? Is it your voice with the guitar together? What makes you feel happy?
I think it's a bit like meditation. You know, you're doing a song, playing it and singing it, and your mind is completely away from, normal
Day-to-day
stuff.
So you tune in, you focus in.
It's focusing in, and then if you write your own song, it's your own story coming out, sort of thing. It's I must admit that not having thought about it much, I just do it. You know what I mean?
Well, but isn't that the truth?
Well, it's second nature to some people, whereas other people would struggle. Other people.
Well, I'd struggle to play the guitar and never learned.
But I think it's a gift. It's obviously a gift.
I think, a lot of people say, I tried the piano, I couldn't play, but you never know if they took up the drums, they might be able to be a drummer or a wind instrument. They're all different physical
very good point.
things.
Yes.
And I think everybody's could, play an instrument if they found the right one.
Yeah.
Do you know, I've never thought of it in those terms, because there's blowy instruments, there's fingering instruments, and so they're all different.
Yeah, drumming and keyboards.
Yes, quite different. So I see you've got the harmonica here. We will absolutely make you do the whole thing later.
Yeah.
But from the beginning of, in your early 20s, taking this up, this thing of working with all these famous people, how did this happen for you?
Well, that's...
Because you're not a self-promoter.
No. Well, I started off in the band I started later. It was called the Bodgies, and we became pretty successful. We were in the right place at the right time, the typical thing. And we got an agent in Melbourne, and we went to live in Melbourne, and they were booking us as support acts for all the a lot of big concerts. So when I say I worked with them, just appeared on stage before they got there. And mostly we never got to meet them. Sometimes you would, but it was a real thrill to play in those big big halls
with
and
big
stadiums
sound and lots of people running around making it happen.
And there was no pressure on you because the crowd there wasn't there to see you,
No.
and so you just had to be half good. And they say, "Oh, that wasn't bad,"
Half good.
And it was really such an education to see all these, how the way the big act conducted themselves, performed, practiced, sound checked, all that sort of stuff was really interesting.
Wow.
But see, those were the days when the union in Australia made it possible for that to happen, because there had to be 5 performers work with any overseas act.
Yep.
Not like that anymore.
No.
But it gave a lot of people, even me, the opportunity to work with big name people that you normally wouldn't.
Yeah, that's right. You've band like Joe Cocker came to Adelaide, so an Adelaide band had to be the support act,
And I had to introduce him.
Is that right?
Actually a fact, yes.
Yeah. Wasn't it Thebarton Town
Yes.
Hall? Well,
Were you there?
Yeah.
Good heavens. All I said, and it was off stage, was, "Ladies and gentlemen, here is Joe Cocker." And I've never forgotten this, because the entire room just erupted on his name.
Yeah.
But talking about working with those guys, the offstage crew, and how they were crawling underneath amps and plugging stuff, it was amazing what they did.
Yeah.
But the audience couldn't see that. But this is what you don't realise of what goes on behind the scenes.
No, that was a big...
Good gracious, I'll talk to you about that.
Yeah, it was a big eye-opener for us when we got to work with big bands like the Road Crews and all that.
Yes.
And we used to have a lot of, not fights, but, because they just wanted... We were nothing to them. We would get us on, get us off, get out of the way sort of thing. And they would do drive from Broken Hill that day and set up, and they had no sleep. And I've detailed it in my book a lot.
Yeah, well,
stuff, yeah.
This is interesting. Not everybody. I've been on a mission to almost everybody I talk to in our age group, saying you've got to write a book, because the history of not only our lives but the times we've lived in will be forgotten otherwise.
Yeah. It's like we were talking just about the union and the bands, and that's not going to happen again. And
No. Yeah. So when did you pen this?
that's nearly 10 years old now. This could be big.
So you need to update it.
It's gone to the printer as we speak. It's a big, fatter version.
Oh, you've done it.
Updated, yeah.
Good
it's
on you.
already, because I've sold out of that one. And so that one is, the subtitle was 30 years at the dag end of the Australian music industry. The new one is 40 years at the dag end of the...
Right. We'll leave some information on Facebook how you can connect with Don for that book. You've also got a plethora of albums here.
Yeah.
Of what's your favourite music? There's all of these. So nice of you to give these to us. There's so much material there.
Yeah.
Where does the material come from?
In the early days, I played a lot of blues, It's got like blues. And I suppose you'd call what I like is roots music, And I like Australian artists mainly. When I go through my record collection, it's about 70% Australian stuff, like Paul Kelly and old stuff like...
So you're telling us it's a story. You're a story.
I like to write story
songs.
songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, your story we're going to pick up in just a minute. We'll take a quick break and be back with singer, songwriter, guitarist and guitar maker Don Morrison.
Your songwriting then, Don, your inspiration comes from where? From travelling or just from people you meet or...?
Well, actually, it turns out a lot of them are from travelling, yeah. The last album I did was a collection of all the songs of roads, streets and cars, that I've been, done.
Yeah.
Because I like travelling too. It's about the only time is my brain sort of turns off because I'm just sitting in the car driving. It's like you get in a bit of a zen state, because I can't do anything. I have to go until I get to where I'm going.
The songs come as you drive?
Oh, I've written some really great ones on the road and forgotten them as soon as I stopped.
That's what the mobile phone's for, so you can record it.
I have made attempts to take notes, put a notebook there and...
Just press record.
That's right, I should have it. But, I get ideas anyway, and sometimes I build on
the hooks and the lyric or a hook of a tune will come to into your brain. You think, I must. It's hard to pull over then.
Yeah.
Because you can't drive with a mobile phone.
No, I remember thinking, coming up with the idea for a melody and a lyric and thinking, oh, that's so good, I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
And then 5 minutes later it's gone. I thought, oh, no.
But Don, the chances are they'll come back to you when you're least expecting that hook.
I think they do.
Yeah. It's fair to say, why aren't you more famous?
It's got a lot to do with the right place at the right time. And, for a little while, my first band was in the right place, the right music, we met the right people. But the other thing is all the people that I've met that have been quite successful, they're absolutely driven. They might be nice people, but it's like, get out of my way because, I'll say something like, oh, I did a good gig at this particular venue. It was a nice place. And, if somebody told me that, I'd say, oh, that's good. But the driven person, the one that will be successful, they say, oh, yeah, who books those gigs? How much do they pay?
Yeah.
When do I get on them?
Yeah.
They're either they do that or they've got somebody doing it for them. And, you have to be... Well, a lot of it's got to do with luck and talent, obviously, but also you need that driven... single-mindedness.
In our show last time, we were talking with George Torbay from the university here, and he was basically saying the same thing for the people on the other side of it who are coming up to learn, to come to uni. They've got a background in what they do, but they have to be really driven and be in the right place, which is the uni, and obviously have the talent to go through. And even then, they may diversify and become something else. So in a way, your guitar making is something else as well, because you make guitars on consignment, don't you?
Yeah. I've made nearly 400 and something guitars.
Gosh.
And
So when do you
70
sleep?
mandolins, and I just made about 60 ukuleles. So I've been doing it for 20 years, and it's been like almost a full-time job.
Yeah.
Like,
Amazing.
if I had my way, I'd like to be playing music as a full-time job and making guitars as a hobby.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's the other way around, and I can't complain about that, because
No, it's a living.
it's a good job. And
So you've got a workshop at home?
yeah, work at home, yeah.
So what sort of tools are required to make something like this?
A lot of people come to my workshop and they expect to see me in a white jacket and computer machines and that, but really a hammer and an angle grinder and a soldering iron are the ones I need. Yeah.
I'm looking at your face and thinking you've got the look of an iconic Australian. You've got the look of, the travelling singer type person.
He looks like Chris Christopherson.
No, no. Look at the smile. Look at the smile. Yeah. Look at the smile. Because I just feel in this country we forget that we've got these great people like yourself who have worked and developed something that's unique to you and unique to the country, and we don't sort of accolade that to the extent that maybe we could and should.
Yeah, I find that. Particularly with Adelaide, like I went to Melbourne 10 times last year. I've just started to go over there again, and one of the reasons I do it is so the Adelaide people think, oh, he's gone down Melbourne. He can't be that bad. You know what I mean?
Oh,
yeah, there's still a little cultural cringe here, and yet we're the festival state.
Yeah.
So, were you doing shows in the Fringe?
No. If you don't do a Fringe show, the best thing you can do is get out of Adelaide if you're a musician, and you haven't got something on the Fringe. But I have done a couple of shows. But
right. We've got another one of your guitars over there. I'll hold that one for you if you like. Oh, it's quite heavy.
Yeah, well, it's made out of metal. That's
well,
right.
yes, but I thought, it is.
Yeah, not as heavy as the actual ones you can buy, the chrome-plated ones, like the Dire Straits.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They're very heavy. But,
So what's the story with this one? Because I can see some writing on the side.
Yeah, that's PER in old paint. As a young fella, my dad lived in Perponda in the Mallee for a long time with his Uncle Charlie and Auntie Fran. And, you always used to talk about it when, to the kids, but we never went out there. And a few years ago, I went, his dad long since died, but I went out there and tracked down his old place, and there was nothing, just a pile of rubble, and the whole place is abandoned for kilometres around, And so out of the pile of rubble, I got a sheet of tin, and this, the neck and the fretboard is from a cypress pine railway fence. The railway's gone, but the fence post was still there.
Just turn it around a bit so we can see the grain at the back. Yes.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and the pole, actually, the post was about 8 foot high and this wide, but there was only this amount of wood left inside it that was
that you could use.
Good, yeah.
What a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
But you're creating a history at the same time as you're making these. That's what's beautiful.
Yeah, and since I've done this, a few people have sent me iron from their, like the last one I did was a shearing shed in Winton in Queensland. The bloke I made it for used to live there, as a kid, and he went back there and grabbed a couple of sheets, sent it down, and I made the guitar out of that for him. And so
that's fantastic.
David Long, who put me on to Don, was right. You are a gem, just amazing. So, what do you want for yourself for the future? What would you like for music in Australia?
Oh, well, I'd like to play a bit more. Do some more festivals and that sort of thing. Get around a bit, just play a bit more.
For people to hear the honest you.
Yeah, I like playing, so I'm quite happy, just doing pub gigs and that around.
Set yourself up in Womadelaide.
Yeah.
That's coming up soon.
Yeah, it's easier said than done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's one of the points I would like to make to people watching is simply we often forget there's such great people living and working all around Australia, irrespective of which state you're in, and the legacy that they're creating right now for the future is really worth us holding on to. We tend to be indoctrinated with the Americans and the music that's coming out of there, but we often forget we have this rich history in Australia as well. And you just mentioned a few names before of people who have broken through and are well respected in Australia, but there's a lot of people like you that the general public probably don't know about. And like you said, it's hard to push yourself.
Yeah, well, you have to be up there, so...
On a mission.
The big focus.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who was like you as a young lad?
I would say decide what you want to do early.
If
you can come to a conclusion, yes, I want to be a well-known musician. So I always thought I've always thought that next week I'll give up playing music. I won't be. I've only just recently realised that it's my, a lifetime
That's
thing.
your life.
But I loved it. But I always thought that it's just a passing phase. Won't worry about it. But yeah, if I was a young guy and I realised that I would be playing this long, I would be much more focused on the business of it for a while.
Asking how much and who got you this job.
Yeah, that's right.
How much do they pay?
That's
Get
right.
ready for this because Don's going to do a number to end our program. So stick with us and we'll be back in a tick to hear almost his life story. We're both fans now, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
And we want to show you just why we had Don Morrison on the show. Here's Don Morrison.
5 men in a car, not sure where we are, but we're going somewhere, we'll get there. It's 4 a.m. and we're still hours away. There's only trucks and us on this giant highway. Ooh, 5 men in a car. Ooh, 5 men in a car. Towns go by, they're just names. Refueling stops on our road to fame. We've been here before, maybe. Now I'm not sure, but it looks the same as the place before. Ooh, now it's my turn to drive. It's my turn to drive. On and on, on and on, on and on and on. The oil light comes on outside none drew. If we break down out here, not sure what we'll do. A roadhouse food, a near Gunda guy, could be a Horsham or Hay, Lismore or Yass or Narrabri. Roadhouse food. Ooh, roadhouse blues. Ooh, 5 men in a car. Ooh, 5 men in a car.
Well, a great song.
Oh, thanks.
Well done.
And that's what we're missing these days, I think. Honest songs about honest situations. Don, you've been a wonderful guest. Thank you so much for being with us.
It's been a pleasure to be here.
It's been a pleasure to meet you officially and to hear your music. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. There's information we'll leave on Facebook about Don, his book, his records, and we'll see you next time. Say goodbye, Janice.
Goodbye.
Keep yourself nice till then. Bye.